Hello there, welcome back to Worm Watts, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. Now, it has been a while since I have been back in the bins. It's actually been nearly a month, a little bit over a month actually. And so in this bin, in this episode, we're actually going to be getting into our Rachel bin. And it has actually been 35 days since we were last here. And that is quite a bit of time. And it's longer than I wanted to be away, but sometimes life calls. So thankfully, that is one of the beautiful things about having a worm bin, is the ability to kind of set it and forget it. But there's still some maintenance to do. And so as we get back into this bin, I'd love to see where it's at, see what we're looking at. Oh, wow. And right away, we've got our isopods moving around, scrambling around. They seem to be doing just fine. We've got our coconut here still. It seems to be just fine. And we've got what appear to be some mites down further below. And actually, as I zoom in, I'm not sure what I'm seeing in there, but there is definitely quite a bit of activity there. I think it's an isopod, maybe an isopod appendage that's sticking out of this hole, and it looks like it was some kind of like worm or something, some really, really thin worm. But anyway, welcome back with me to the bin. This bin obviously has been, it's been a while since we've been in here, and yet even as I'm digging in, it's not super dry. Like, there's a little bit of moisture to it. Now, of course, it's not sticking to my fingers, and I'll zoom out so that you can see that. So it's not as moist as it was before. And one of the things that's actually neat to see is that we had actually, the last time we were in this bin, if I remember correctly, we actually worked on fluffing this bin up a little bit to try to help reduce the compaction, increase the oxygen penetration into the deeper recesses of the bin. And at least these parts that we're feeling right now toward the top feel really nice. Just really nice texture to them. They're not very sticky. But you would kind of expect that as you get toward the top. So I'm curious to see how the corners are doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's move into this corner of the bin, or that corner. And so far we haven't seen any worms yet, and I'm not surprised. As the bin kind of dries, I would imagine that the worms would head for the moisture sections. And actually, we've got our first worm right over here where my finger is. I'll zoom in on it. Hopefully you can spot it. It's not moving a bunch, but it's there. So they're doing all right. And now I'm starting to get to parts that are just a bit more moist. And yeah, we're looking all right. Look at the family of isopods over there. Neat to see them doing their thing, and we've got some more worms further down. So, oh, and there's another one actually. There are quite a few worms down here. So we unearthed a few of them. Try to focus so that you can see them. Sorry, it's a little bit, there we go. So there are some worms. And that just gives me hope that this has been just fine, even over the time that we've been away. We're seeing worms. They've found a nice way to find the part of the bin that suits them, and that's the neat thing about vermicomposting, is just the ability to leave it for an extended period, and the worms are really able to adjust. Again, there's enough food in here. Well, you know, we have the these brown materials. I'm sure as well, with the isopods moving around and eating and doing all of the things that they do, they also leave castings behind, and the worms can also eat those. So there's plenty of material here. So I'm glad to see that everything seems to be doing all right, even as we've left it for such a long time. So at this point, I'm really excited because I would like to kind of get this bin jump started again, and the way to do that, or the way that I plan to do that, is by doing a feeding. And there's nothing like food to get everything going. Oh wow, I found some plastic in here. That's one of the benefits of just digging through the bin. And I imagine that the plastic came from these leaves. So I do tend to gather my leaves from neighbors who don't value theirs and gather them up and put them on the curb. And so I do my best to sort through them, but sometimes little pieces like that do end up getting through. But you know, we're able to find them. The worms are not confused, and they stay away from the plastic, so we're able to find it when the time comes. Wow, look at that. So yeah, the isopods are doing great. And so we're gonna go ahead and do a feeding. Last time we fed was quite a while back, and we did a comparison in this bin of the fermented food and frozen food, which was really neat to see. And both of them did very well. So just goes to show that, you know, any way of trying to help the food break down is very helpful. I do prefer using fermentation, which is, you know, I use bokashi to accomplish that. But today we're just going to toss in just some regular food scraps and see how they do with that. I imagine that they will process them pretty quickly because I've allowed these to really sit and get nice and moldy for for a good bit. So there's been some decomposition done, though largely anaerobic, because I've tried to keep flies at bay. So let me go ahead and pull the food that we'll be feeding, and then we'll go ahead and start distributing it. All right, so I've got 3 different types of food that we're going to be feeding. I'm really excited. I'm going to show them one at a time. You know, let's build up the suspense. Let's get the worms excited, and let's get excited as those who get to watch and observe their antics and their prowess at breaking down food. So the first item that I've got here, let me get this bag open right quick. First item that I've got here is the skin of a spaghetti squash. Let's see if I can get that out of this Ziploc bag. And I've allowed it to sit here in this plastic bag for quite a while. It's got some nice molding on it. You can see it's actually kind of beautiful, honestly. It looks like someone did a watercolor with splotches of black, but that's actually microorganisms getting to work on the rind of the spaghetti squash. So we'll go ahead and put that in there, and it's breaking apart pretty well, being inside that bag and having the moisture in there. I'm sure that has helped. So I'll try to partially bury it. That'll probably make it easier for the worms to get to with a little bit less trouble. So usually I try to pull back a little hole. So let's try to do that. And we'll just put it down and toss some castings right on top. All right, so that's that. That has probably been sitting there for nearly a month, maybe a little bit less than that, but yeah, probably about a month. And you can see the bag that it's been inside of. That started out nice and clean and clear. But yeah, as you can tell, now it's black from the breakdown. So hopefully that gives the worms a little bit of a head start by allowing the microbes to kind of do some of the work of breaking the food down, and then gets them more interested in getting into it. So we'll go ahead and cover that and put that on this side. And now, toward the middle of the bin, we're going to put one of Worm's favorite foods. I'll put it right here in this middle section. I'm going to dig a nice little trench in here. And as I do, you can see these worms coming out. Look at them. They look really nice and ready for whatever is going to be joining them. They are ready to eat. So as we pull this back, we create a nice little trench, and then I'll just toss the food in there and cover it back over. All right, so our second food item is this wonderfully moldy bowl of, wow, goodness, mold is everywhere. This wonderfully moldy bowl of pumpkin. It's actually so moldy you can't even tell that there's pumpkin in there. And left it in a nice anaerobic environment again. And man, did it get partially devoured by the microbes. I'll try to just slide it in. You can see from the side what it is. It still has the orange color, but the parts that have been exposed to air, whoo, so nice. And it just slides right in. I'll use a spoon to get the rest of this. I don't want the worms to miss out on any of this nice film, so I'm going to try to grab some of that too. So I got that in a nice spoonful and just dump that in there. Worms love pumpkin, and this is nice and already kind of pureed, so it should be really easy for them to get to, especially given the fact that it's already been acted on by microorganisms, as evidenced by all of the mold. All right, so that's nice and done. At this point, we'll cover it back over, and I do not expect to see that again, because I imagine that they're going to make quick work of that. You can see the worms already that we have in this area. And for those of you who have not followed our journeys with worms, this is one of our red wiggler bins. I'm sorry I didn't introduce them. This is our Rachel bin, our bin of red wigglers. This is our mother bin of red wigglers. So the first bin that I started with red wiggler worms. And prior to maybe about 2 or so months ago, they had been largely fed. There was a coconut that you probably saw earlier in the video toward the middle of the bin. And then since then, I've really fed a lot of leaf litter. And we saw the isopods really thrive on that. But since then, I've been trying to add a little bit more variety. So in our last time in this bin, we added in some potato peels, and we went ahead and pre-processed them. In my experience, potato peels do not break down really well in a worm bin, which I found very interesting, and I'm not exactly sure of why. If you're watching and you do know why, I'd love to hear. I've read some people surmise that it's because of the high starch concentration, that could be a reason why. But regardless, I have not found that just straight raw potato peels break down very well. So because of that, I went ahead and decided to pre-process these, and I used 2 different methods. And you can watch them in our most recent video. If you go to our playlists, search for the Rachel bin, and you can actually go back and watch some of the previous episodes we've had in this bin. But last time we went ahead and did bokashi fermented potato peels on one side, and then frozen potato peels on the other side, and we got to watch that over a period of a few weeks. It wasn't quite a play-by-play, but we went ahead and put it in and then checked on it in about 5 days and got to see the comparison there. So really neat. I hope you get to check that out. I hope to do a little bit more comparing kind of like that, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more scientific, reduce some of the variables next time, and try to do something that where, you know, we have at least an even, a closer control over how much we're adding to each side, etc., so that we can get a better gauge on that. But all in all, it was a neat little experiment to try. And so anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get ready for our third food item. So we've gone ahead. Here we just finished with our pureed pumpkin that was nice and moldy. We put that in this section. Under here, buried underneath some of our castings, we have the rind of a spaghetti squash that was also nice and moldy, nice and mottled with black and white mold. So really, really pretty. And that's underneath here. And in this final little trench that we've dug, we're going to add in food I'm very excited about. I've never fed this to worms before, so drum roll, please. All right, so as we prepare for the, you know, the fall and the winter and the, kind of the holiday season, right? We have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, those different holidays as they come closer. Obviously, there are a lot of sweets, and I guess the worms also probably like sweets too. So that's kind of what we're going to be trying in this corner. We are going to be trying some natural sweets. I made a homemade batch of prune juice with some dried prunes that I had on hand. And so this is the leftover prunes after they were juiced and drained, and the liquid drained off of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just put one prune right in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put some of the prunes in there. And then I'm also gonna pour some of the juice around there as well. And we'll see how the worms do breaking this down. I'm really excited about it because I figure that because I simmered these for quite a while to try to draw out as much of the juice as I could. And so I'm curious to see, let's see if this drips off okay. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, all right, that's good enough. All right, so I imagine this is gonna draw in some attention from other decomposers as well. When you have sweets, everybody wants to hop in there, and that's okay. I'm gonna put some leaves down there I hope that maybe some of the microbes that are kind of on the leaves, residing on the leaves, will kind of get in there and help to break this down. And then we'll cover it over with the rest of the castings in the bin and the rest of the substrate in here. And I'm hoping that that will help with the fly pressure. Obviously, the temperatures are kind of dropping a little bit. They kind of bounced back up a little bit, actually. Right now, today is the 18th of November, and here we are in the bin. So doing all right. But yeah, the temperatures are kind of going to be falling again back into the, you know, the 60s and 70s. So I think that that'll bode well for keeping the pests under control. So we've gone ahead, we've done our feedings. We've got a few pieces of the prune remains in here. And basically we tried to, mostly it's the prune pulp, if you will. So we took the prunes, I took them, I put them in some water and simmered them to make a prune juice. I drained off the juice, and this is basically the pulp that's remaining. So we've got that buried here. We've got the pumpkin, which worms absolutely love, the pureed pumpkin right here. And then on this side, we've got the rind of the spaghetti squash. So really neat, honestly. I'm really excited about this feeding. I love being able to give our worms diverse food types. And I think that this bin has enough of a population to be able to handle all of the food items that we've put in here. So I'm not concerned about overfeeding, which is really good because I've had some powerful lessons to teach me a little bit about overfeeding. So I feel good about this so far. We'll go ahead and cover this back over. The bin seems to be doing okay as far as moisture, but with fall and winter kind of setting in and lower temperatures, that tends to also mean that there's less ambient moisture. So because of that, we will try to keep an eye on the moisture in the bin. Again, we don't want it to be too wet, and that's kind of something that I've tended to err on the side of. I've tended to get my bins too wet. So I'm going to leave it as is. I feel like the castings are moist enough and the worms are able to dig further down to find the places that they like. And I also believe that adding in these food items that we have, as they break down, they're going to release moisture. And of course, there's going to be a little bit of heat. So for all of that, I think that we're in good shape here. I don't think we need to add any extra water. And I think that we will call it a day in the Rachel bin. So I'm gonna go ahead and this is one of the worm blankets that was in here. It's kind of, its breakdown has kind of slowed down because it's not as moist as it was before. Maybe I'll just spray this down just a little bit, not too much. We don't want too much moisture in the bin, so I'll just spray that down a little bit. But yeah, I don't imagine that this is going to break down much more until it gets nice and wet again. So, but we can take care of that later. I will cover over this. Actually, before I do, one thing I almost forgot. It's been a little bit since we've been in the bin, so we're out of practice maybe. But we always like to add in some grit. And that is in the form of pulverized or crushed eggshell. And it doesn't just provide grit for the worms to help break down their food, it also helps to balance the pH of the bin. So this crushed eggshell is tends to be basic. So that's the opposite end of the spectrum of acidic. So as the food scraps break down, hopefully this will help to buffer the pH of the bin. But at the same time, it also provides the worms with some grit to help break down their food. So with that being done, I just did a light layer this time. I think we're ready to call it a day. Thanks for joining us in the Rachel bin, and we hope to catch you next time.